Discover the incredible moment a shy girl transformed a CEO's life with one simple watch repair. Emma sat in her grandfather's watch repair shop, the faint ticking of dozens of clocks creating a rhythm that echoed the uncertainty in her heart. At 17, she had already repaired hundreds of watches, her hands deftly maneuvering tiny gears and springs, yet each time she faced a new piece, self-doubt clawed at her mind. What if I mess it up? The whispers in her head paralyzed her dreams of becoming a master watchmaker. Her peers, who laughed at her fascination with the intricate inner workings of timepieces, replayed like a haunting melody, amplifying the vulnerability she felt in a world that demanded boldness. She glanced out the shop window at the bustling street, her small-town existence colliding with the distorted reflections of grandeur. The voices of judgment seemed to seep into the walls, mocking her passion. Emma's delicate fingers brushed over a leather strap as she inhaled the familiar scent of oil and wood, but even this comfort was clouded by a gnawing unease. Am I really cut out for this? She wondered, torn between the unconditional support of her family legacy and the crushing weight of her inadequacies. Suddenly, the bell above the door chimed, cutting through her spiraling thoughts. Tom, a polished CEO from the city, stepped in. The contrast between his tailored suit and her worn apron was stark, his energy crackling with corporate tension. He held a broken wristwatch, a relic from his past. For a moment, the chaos of his high-stakes life faded, replaced by the faint echoes of family dinners. But as he looked closer, he saw not only the watch's broken face but a reflection of his own disarray. Strangers without connections, both Emma and Tom stood at life's crossroads, tethered by the ticking of a clock. "Do you fix watches?" he asked, his voice betraying the uncertainty that loomed behind his confident exterior. Emma nodded, heart racing. Each tick of the clock sounded now like a countdown, it begged her to rise to the challenge. As she began to explain the intricacies of watchmaking, something shifted within her. Her passion flickered to life, illuminating the shadows of self-doubt. In that moment, she saw not just a client but a person in need, the same urgency she felt reflected in Tom's weary eyes. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as they began to forge a genuine connection, Tom's phone buzzed persistently, dragging him back to a world bustling with expectations and numbers. A crisis awaited him, a major fallout at his company. He stepped back, the burden of his corporate responsibilities crashing into him like a tidal wave. The pressure to prioritize profit loomed ominously over him, a stark contrast to Emma's world, where time was measured not in dollars but in moments. Caught between the expectations of his corporate life and the authenticity Emma represented, Tom felt himself tearing at the seams. The invisible chains of ambition pulled tighter, yet each tick of the shop's clock urged him to question it all. Is this what I want? He asked himself, heart pounding in his chest as his resolve wavered. Emma's quiet strength resonated within him, yet the fear of losing everything he had built over the years threatened to drown out her voice. In this moment of maximum anguish, as the clock relentlessly ticked on, the stakes rose higher than ever. Would he be able to reclaim a heartfelt connection before plunging back into the corporate chaos? Or would fear dictate his steps, leaving both of them at the crossroads of their lives, destined to unravel the threads of their budding friendship? A storm raged both internally and externally, time was running out. Emma watched Tom's expression shift from eagerness to anxiety in an instant. The allure she felt while explaining the nuances of watch repair was abruptly overshadowed by the reality of his corporate pressures. As he faced his phone, its persistent buzzing a reminder of his responsibilities, Emma felt a pang of helplessness wash over her. She had seen people retreat into their shells before, now it was happening right before her eyes. Determined to unlock the opportunity that flickered between them, Emma took a deep breath. This was her moment, not just to help Tom but to affirm her own capabilities. She needed to be bold, to confront her own reservations, even as they were mirrored in the man standing before her. "Tom," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, "this watch represents more than time, it's about memories and moments. Connecting with the past can reshape the future." He met her gaze, the tension in his shoulders easing just slightly. "What if I get pulled back into that world, Emma?" "I fear it's unredeemable," he confessed, vulnerability crackling in his voice. The air thickened with the intensity of his admission. Here was this monument of success, articulated by nature itself, burdened by self-doubt. "Maybe," Emma replied, her heart racing, "you can choose how you define your legacy." This revelation struck a chord within her too, igniting a flicker of courage that had long been extinguished by self-criticism. Every gear and every spring has a purpose, so do we. You have the power to rebuild. Tom blinked, clearly weighing her words. Emma continued, combining her passion for watchmaking with a newfound insight. "I've spent my life doubting my abilities, thinking I should do what everyone else expects of me. But what if I instead embraced being different? What if I leaned into my love for watches? Just like you have to decide what truly matters in your life, I'm learning to embrace my passion." A serene silence enveloped them, the rhythmic ticking piercing through the chaos of thoughts swirling in Tom's mind. He looked around the shop as if seeing it for the first time. "It's incredible how time keeps passing, yet we can pause and reflect," he murmured. Emma sensed an opening, an opportunity to strengthen this nascent bond and her own resolve. "Let us do this together. You share your challenges, and I'll share my process in repairing this watch. You might find that clarity when you see something come back to life." For the first time in a long while, Tom smiled, an authentic smile, one that reached his eyes. They began to collaborate, each moment of focused labor pulling them deeper into a shared dialogue of aspiration and hardship. As Emma worked, her hands steady and sure, she stepped beyond her uncertainty, channeling it into a rhythm that blended seamlessly with Tom's cautious enthusiasm. Yet even as excitement blossomed, a sense of foreboding loomed over them. Tears thickened in Tom's eyes as he recounted recent setbacks at work, and Emma's heart sank with the weight of realization. This moment was delicate, balanced on a thread of uncertainty. She saw the shadow of corporate chaos lurking behind Tom, a testament to the formidable demands he faced. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again, a heated message from a board member demanding immediate answers. It shattered the moment, a jarring reminder of the world that awaited him. "I have to answer that," he said, his voice tinged with reluctance. "Wait." Emma impulsively blurted out, her mind racing. "What if you do take a few moments longer?" In life and in business, often the pause before the next step becomes the most crucial. This watch won't fix itself without patience. Tom hesitated, wrestling with the duality of the pressure he felt and the sanctuary Emma offered. Emma dared to believe she was igniting a catalyst for change within him. Would he finally take the step away from the cliff of corporate despair and dive into a world where personalization and authenticity reigned? Time felt suspended, each passing second pulsing with potential, leaving both of them at a precipice. "Would you be willing to try?" she asked softly, wondering if he could embrace this opportunity for more than just the watch repair. The clock ticked ominously in the background, each tick swelling with urgency as Tom's decision hung heavily in the air. Tom's eyes darted between the phone in his hand and Emma's unwavering gaze. The weight of expectation hung like a cloud, but Emma's words felt like an anchor resisting the current of his corporate insanity. "What if I try?" he murmured, a hint of defiance creeping into his defeat. "Just for a few minutes," Emma encouraged, her heart pounding as she fought the urge to shy away from the intensity of the moment. Could a simple watch repair really serve as a turning point for him? For both of them? With a deep breath, Tom placed the phone face down on the counter. Each second ticking away felt monumental. "Okay," he said finally, his resolve strengthening. The decision caused a ripple in the atmosphere. Emma's determination mingled with his, a silent pact forming between them. As they resumed their work, Emma's hands guided the tools deftly over the watch's delicate innards. She could feel Tom's cautious curiosity behind her, like a flame that could ignite with just the right spark. "Tell me more about why you feel it's unredeemable," she suggested, her voice laced with genuine concern. A new kind of intensity surged within Tom, his voice thick as he spoke about the relentless demands of his role. "It's like I'm in a machine, Emma. Every day is the same grind, pushing for more profits and appeasing shareholders. There's no room for doing things that mean something to me." Emma understood, the embers of her own struggles reflecting in his confessions. Here they were, two individuals caught in gears they didn't choose, yearning for freedom in their respective domains. "I get that, Tom. For years, I drifted through expectations and didn't dare chase my passion. It's liberating to forge my own path." He nodded, the intensity in his eyes flickering as he processed her words. "You think that I can redefine this? That there's still time to create something meaningful?" "Absolutely," Emma assured him, her heart racing as she pushed through the vulnerable boundaries of their conversation. "One step at a time. Just like this watch, if you invest your energy into the parts that really matter, you can create something beautiful." Tom leaned in closer, captivated both by the act of repair and the conversation swirling around them. The hours of corporate tension seemed to drift away, replaced by this intimate exchange of shared honesty. As they carefully adjusted the watch's mechanism, Emma's thoughts flicked to her own fears. Could she truly embrace her identity as a watchmaker? What barriers still existed within her own mind that held her back from fully pursuing this newfound identity? A question germinated in her mind: was the extent of her healing tied to helping Tom navigate his own despair? Perhaps this moment of connection could serve as a catalyst for both of their launches into new beginnings. Just as these thoughts crystallized, the shop's door swung open with a sharp jingle. The unexpected intrusion severed the delicate atmosphere. A familiar figure stepped inside, bringing with them the distinct aura of authority that made Emma's pulse quicken. Her mentor, Robert. "Emma. I wasn't aware you were taking in clients today," he said with a raised brow, casting a discerning glance toward Tom. The presence loomed large, and the comfort between Emma and Tom shifted into something more precarious. I was just," she stammered, a mix of embarrassment and defiance surging through her. Robert's scrutinizing gaze turned toward Tom, and Emma sensed the weight of his judgment heavy in the air. Would he understand the moment she had crafted here? Would he dismiss it as trivial? In that instant, Emma understood this critical juncture. She could allow Robert's perception to dictate their actions, or she could claim her voice in defense of the connection she was nurturing with Tom. As tension crackled in the atmosphere, the choice was suddenly clear, and she realized, embracing her passion meant not only empowering herself but also standing her ground against any criticism. "Actually, Robert," she spoke up, a newfound resolve radiating from her, "this is about more than just repairs. We're discussing our futures." As uncertainty loomed, and Tom's eyes widened in surprise, Emma braced herself. A decisive moment was on the horizon, and the stakes were higher than ever. Would she hold on to this claim of personal agency in front of her mentor, or would the fear of judgment threaten to undo everything? The clock ticked on, and both Emma and Tom stood at the edge, uncertain yet unyielding, as the tension in the room thickened with impending change. Robert's expression shifted from casual curiosity to something colder, his brow knitting with disapproval. "Our futures? Emma, you're a watchmaker. This is merely a repair shop, nothing to be romantic about." His tone was sharp, slicing through the fragile connection Emma felt with Tom, leaving her momentarily speechless. Tom stiffened, the transformation in his demeanor palpable. The anger bubbling beneath his surface eclipsed the vulnerability he'd just showed. "What's wrong with discussing aspirations?" he demanded, his voice rising slightly. "Isn't that what we should be doing, challenging each other, striving for something more?" Emma's heart raced at Tom's boldness. This was the spark she hoped for, illuminating a fierce determination in him. She took a breath, ready to lean into this burgeoning connection. Exactly. There's value in pursuing what truly matters to us, straightforward as that might seem to someone who has always played it safe in the corporate game. Her eyes flicked back to Robert, who stood dumbfounded at the rising tension. Robert's gaze shifted between Emma and Tom, one thick with judgment, the other igniting with purpose. This exposure of her thoughts and ambitions felt like stripping the protective layers from her soul. She was terrified, yet oddly liberated. "You see, Robert," she continued, "it's in the details. Each watch tells a story, a journey of craftsmanship and intention. I've learned that every part matters, and when those parts align, they create something genuine and beautiful." Robert's face hardened, the sharp lines of his authority digging deeper as he crossed his arms. "Emma, you need to remember your place," he cautioned, the edge to his voice echoing off the walls. "This isn't a self-help seminar. You have responsibilities." Frustration bubbled within her. The time for acquiescence had passed. And what of personal responsibility? Should I deny my own growth because it makes you uncomfortable? Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of her newfound resolve. Tom shifted slightly, his eyes meeting Emma's with a glimmer of admiration. "That's right," he remarked, emboldened. "We shouldn't be ashamed to stake our claims in pursuits that matter. We all deserve the chance to chase what we want." The atmosphere shifted again, a palpable tension enveloping the three of them. Emma felt Tom's support invigorating her, pushing back against Robert's oppressive narrative. "You think this is about fear?" Robert questioned, his tone cold. "You risk your career for what? A notion? I hope you're aware that this could have serious consequences." Every word was an attempt to paralyze her, yet it ignited a flame within. Would she allow his ambitions to infiltrate her thoughts, to manipulate her passion? "No. I'm not afraid of pursuing my passions, Robert. I refuse to be boxed in by fear, and I refuse to let you dictate what I can or cannot feel. My journey is my own, just as Tom's is." Silence engulfed the shop. It was a standoff. Tom's steady support bolstered her courage as she locked eyes with Robert, defiance radiating through every fiber of her being. "Consider this a moment of clarity," Tom added. "I'm not bound by my corporate chains anymore. I want to explore, to be truly alive in every sense. You talk about consequences, Robert, but you ignore the price of stagnation." The air crackled with uncertainty as Robert continued to mask his surprise with a frown. A decision loomed, one that could either shatter their shared spirit or fortify it towards potential transformation. Emma's determination soared. She understood now that this moment could redefine everything, not only for herself but for Tom, too. Together, they were on the cusp of breaking free, a realization both frightening and exhilarating. But as Robert's frown deepened, a sinister glimmer ignited in his eyes. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" he stated, a cryptic warning lingering like an unseen specter. With the stakes higher than ever, Emma realized that her confrontation would require more than her newfound courage. It would demand every ounce of ingenuity she had. Who would emerge victorious in this battle for their own identities? And as an ominous silence enveloped them, she couldn't help but wonder, what consequences awaited them for daring to defy the norms imposed upon them. The tension hung heavy in the air, wrapping around Emma like a tight corset. Robert's glare bore into her, but she refused to shrink beneath its weight. Her heart thumped audibly in her chest, throbbing with the exhilaration of defiance and uncertainty. Was she truly prepared for the fallout of her words? Emma's fingers brushed the edge of the workbench, feeling the familiar cool metal of the watch components scattered before her. This was her world, grounded in precision, craftsmanship, and the rhythm of gears turning in harmony. In this realm, she thrived. Yet, in this moment, it became clear that not only must she confront Robert, but she had to confront herself too. "Tell me, Robert," she started, keeping her voice steady despite the trembling inside, "what drives you? Really? Is it merely the fear of losing control?" She suddenly became aware of Tom beside her. His presence was solid, yet she could feel his own doubts swirling. Did he fear a loss of companionship, a rise in conflict? Their eyes met, and hers must have conveyed unyielding determination. Robert scoffed, his defensive posture rigid. "Fear? What a convenient narrative. What I fear is mediocrity, a failure to adhere to the norms that keep this business thriving. You should understand that, Emma." Mediocrity. The word resonated within her like an alarm bell. For too long, she had muted her ambition, safe inside the confines of the workshop. Now, the thought of subsisting in that realm sent ripples of panic through her. If mediocrity defined her future, what would she become? "No," she breathed, a new resolve crystallizing inside her. "You're wrong. I don't want to simply exist. I want to create. Each watch I repair has a history, a heartbeat. That's what makes it worthwhile. You see it as a business, I see it as an art." In those moments, she glimpsed the vast chasm between her aspirations and Robert's agenda, and each conflict tightened her resolve. What if she embraced this realization? What if she transformed her craft into something more, something true to herself? Robert shifted, his frown deepening as if he could feel the ground shifting beneath his feet. "You think your little projects define you?" He spat, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're going to put everything at risk for sentimentality?" Emma could feel Tom's tension beside her, shared in unison. His words now echoed in her mind, "We should be ashamed to stake our claims." They were no longer moments of fleeting repartee, they had become a declaration. "I refuse to let success be defined by your standards," Emma shot back, each word deliberate. "I would rather face failure on my terms than thrive in mediocrity." As her voice resonated through the air, something shifted within her. A wellspring of latent ambition surged, pushing her to stand taller, straighter. Emma had never proclaimed something so formidable, and yet, it didn't feel reckless. It felt essential. Robert's expression softened momentarily, not with understanding, but perhaps with a budding realization that his power could wane with the shift of the tides around him. Emma's heart raced. Had she truly struck a chord with him? However, lurking behind Robert's sudden silence was a stark underlying threat. Moments of clarity often bore harsh consequences, and she could feel the looming storm of retaliation gathering. "Make no mistake, Emma," he warned, the coldness creeping back into his tone. "You might find you're not as alone in this journey as you think." With one final glance at Tom, who remained vigilant as if braced for whatever might unfold, Emma's conviction solidified. Perhaps this was not just an assertion of her ambition but a seasoned moment of evolution that might define her existence. But as the shadows lengthened in the workshop and her heart drummed the rhythm of a daunting truth, she knew one thing: she was done being afraid. What would the next clash bring? The confrontation was far from over, and the real battle loomed on the horizon. Would Emma's ambition be enough to catapult her into a future of her own making, or would Robert's influence smother her tenacity before it flourished? The day after her confrontation, Emma found herself in a state of heightened anxiety, the remnants of Robert's chilling words replaying in her mind like a relentless echo. She had always prided herself on maintaining a steady hand, both in her craft and her emotions, but with each tick of the clock, a wave of uncertainty crashed over her. In the workshop, however, the atmosphere felt different. Tom, usually a calming presence beside her, was preoccupied, more silent than usual. Emma glanced at him as he busied himself with a batch of vintage watches. His furrowed brow mirrored her own unease, but it also stirred something inside her, a determination not to let Robert's shadow engulf them. Sitting down at her workbench, she surveyed her scattered tools, each one a symbol of potential. With a deep breath, she picked up a delicate timepiece that had been gathering dust, a project begun long ago but abandoned, much like her own ambitions. It represented her true self, the artist she longed to be, and this realization ignited a fire within her. The watch was more than just a task, it was a resurrection, a chance to reclaim her voice. But the question of direction loomed: how could she transform this mere repair into something meaningful? Thoughts raced through her mind, each one dancing around the idea of not only reviving this watch but creating a narrative, a story only she could tell. She carefully dissected the mechanism, feeling each tiny cog like a heartbeat, urging her to own her artistry fully. As she worked step by step, Emma experienced a rare moment of clarity. She began to infuse each gear with her spirit. The process became a meditation. She let go of her fears, pouring herself into this piece. Just then, Tom approached, drawn by the soft clinking of tools and Emma's unwavering focus. "What are you working on?" he asked, curiosity piqued. "It's an old project of mine. Just trying to breathe life back into it," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Tom leaned closer, examining the intricate components. "It looks like you're making more than just a repair. You're creating something special." His encouragement washed over her, merging ambition and hope in a way that seemed palpable. But a voice in her mind questioned if this truly mattered. Could a single watch really make waves in the relentless strife against Robert? "Do you remember when you told me to stake our claims?" she mused aloud, turning the question over in her mind. "What if this is my claim? Not just a piece to sell, but a testimony to who I am?" Tom smiled, a small light of understanding gleaming in his eyes. "I see it. You have something to say, and this is the way to say it." The certainty of his words sent shivers of exhilaration through Emma, leading her to a pivotal realization. To fully manifest her potential, she needed more than talent or resilience, she needed to challenge the constraints that Robert imposed. As she tightened the final screw on the vintage watch, a potent decision crystallized within her: she would host a small showcase in the workshop, an invitation to the local watch enthusiasts to share her vision. A blending of craftsmanship and art, it would allow her to reclaim the narrative, to define success on her own terms. The boldness of this idea startled her, but its urgency was undeniable. Just as the final piece clicked into place, a chilling thought struck her: how would Robert react to her plans? Surely, it would disrupt the carefully maintained order he clung to. With determination swirling in her chest, Emma decided she would no longer shrink beneath the weight of his expectations. It was time to stand up, not just for herself, but for the art that pulsed through her veins. The storm was approaching, and while it filled her with trepidation, it also promised transformation. As she stepped back, admiring her finished work, Emma recognized that this watch was not merely a product, it was a metaphor for everything she was willing to fight for. She could practically feel Robert's eyes on her, the looming shadow hovering in her consciousness. What would this confrontation unearth? With her plan taking shape, the stage was set for a clash not only of ambitions but of identities. Emma could either reclaim her voice or risk losing it forever. In the days that followed, Emma immersed herself in preparations for the showcase. The vintage watch became a symbol of her resilience, each polished surface reflecting her growing determination to confront not only Robert but also the self-doubt that had long clung to her. She meticulously arranged her workshop, infusing every corner with her unique touch. The tools that once seemed ordinary transformed into instruments of storytelling, each piece embodying her journey. Emma crafted a narrative to accompany the restored watch, emphasizing the challenges of reclaiming creativity in a stifling environment. With each scribbled note, her confidence swelled, yet nerves flickered at the edges of her resolve. The invitation circulated among local enthusiasts, and as the date drew closer, she felt swallowed by the enormity of her undertaking. What if no one comes? What if they ridicule my work, nod at her? Yet, the thought of her showcase being an extension of herself, a manifesto against Robert's intimidation, urged her forward. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat in contemplation with Tom. "Do you think I'm deluding myself? This could be disastrous," she said, her voice wavering. Tom, who had been her unwavering support, leaned forward. "Emma, the only disaster would be to hide what you've created. This is your moment. Show them who you truly are," he urged, his confidence igniting the flicker of bravery within her. Reinvigorated, Emma practiced her presentation, her reflection in the workshop window revealing both anxiety and determination. With each rehearsal, she visualized the faces in the audience absorbing her story, sensing her passion through the delicate movement of the gears she had lovingly restored. Yet, as the showcase approached, Robert's ominous presence still loomed large. Nightmares fluttered to life, images of him mocking her efforts filled her sleep, but they shifted as she awakened, the dreamscape transitioned from fear to fierce resolve. She was not merely a watchmaker but an artist, and her expression bore significance beyond the mechanical. On the eve of the showcase, Emma stood amidst her tools, the vintage watch gleaming under the warm workshop lights. It was more than a project, it was an embodiment of her growth, as if she had grafted her spirit into each brass cog. Every tick echoed her heartbeat, reminding her of how far she had come. As guests began to arrive the next day, a cacophony of laughter and conversation swirled around her. Emma felt her pulse quicken, her hands wavering slightly as she prepared to speak. But before she knew it, she was surrounded. Enthusiasts gathered, eyes sparkling with curiosity, captivated by her passion. She cleared her throat, and without hesitation, the words began to flow. "Thank you all for being here. Today, I want to share not just this watch with you, but the journey behind it, about reclaiming my voice in a landscape where doubt often drowns out creativity." With each story she shared, the room shifted. Emma spoke not just about mechanics but about identity, her identity. The audience's eyes widened, nodding in understanding, some leaning in closer as they connected with her journey. But as she reached the climax of her presentation, the door swung open, and silence smothered the air. There he stood, Robert. Dressed sharply in his corporate best, his presence was palpable, an unyielding storm cloud intruding upon her moment. She locked eyes with him, and in that instant, the narrative she had woven began to unravel. Emma felt the air leave her lungs. How would she proceed now, with him watching? Would she retreat, shrink from his gaze, allow his power to overshadow her? The weight of the confrontation she had planned now hung thickly between them, and she could no longer ignore the deeper truth that had settled within her. This was not merely about the watch but a fight against a fear that had long threatened to consume her. Taking a slow, deliberate breath, resolve hardened within her. The moment had arrived, and with it, she felt the pulse of her art come alive, pushing against the weight of his shadow. What would happen next? Would she confront Robert now, and could this moment yield a future defined by her own voice? The moment stretched, time seemingly suspended in the charged air between them. Emma's heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the bright conversations swirling around her. The weight of Robert's gaze felt heavy and electric, sparking the fear that had lingered at the edges of her thoughts. Yet, beneath that fear, a flame flickered, an urge to shatter the chains of anxiety that confined her. "Emma," he said, his tone deceptively smooth, "this is quite the presentation. Didn't he expect to see you stepping so boldly into the spotlight?" The words dripped with condescension, a subtle reminder of the authority he wielded over her life. Swallowing hard, she recalled his past criticisms, how he had undermined her intuition and belittled her craft. But this moment was different. She was not the unsure apprentice cowering in his shadow anymore. She had cultivated her passion, transformed it into an artistry that pulsed with significance. Her voice steadied as she countered, "This isn't about you or your approval, Robert. It's about passion and authenticity." She could feel the room's collective gaze shift, curiosity ignited among the spectators. Robert's brow furrowed, a slight shift suggesting he hadn't anticipated her response. Emma seized the momentum, guarding her narrative, eager to weave elements of truth and power into the fabric of her presentation. "This watch represents not just craftsmanship, but resilience. I've learned that restoring beauty often involves digging deep, facing uncomfortable truths, and embracing vulnerability. The flush of realization washed over her. She was confronting not just Robert but the version of herself he had long held captive. She spoke louder now, her voice laced with confidence, energizing her words as they spilled out. Each gear and spring I restored has a purpose, just like each of us. We endure the pressure of life's ticking clock. Sometimes we lose our way, but we also find opportunities to reassemble ourselves. As she outlined her journey, a kaleidoscope of challenges, doubt, and victory, hushed whispers lingered, morphing into nods of recognition. Something remarkable was unfolding, her transformation sparking a connection among those in attendance. She highlighted how those obstacles, including Robert, had shaped her resolve. But Robert was not so easily subdued. A flicker of annoyance crossed his face. And yet, beneath that bravado, are you truly ready for the world out there, Emma? The industry isn't forgiving, and your idyllic portrayal risks naivety. That challenge loomed ominously, yet it ignited something fierce within her. Life is not limited to the expectations set by others. I refuse to allow fear or doubt dictate my journey. This watch is proof that creativity thrives even in the harshest environments. A round of applause rippled through the audience, cheers piercing the tension. Encouraged, Emma pressed on, the fear that once gripped her heart dissolving into mere background noise. She sensed her footing strengthen, stepping into the vulnerability that had once terrified her. Yet, amidst the warmth of validation, a lingering concern remained. Could she truly break free from Robert's influence, or would he continue to leverage his authority to undermine her progress? As the presentation drew to a close, Emma's heart pounded with exhilaration and uncertainty. The embers of defiance flickered brightly, but she remembered the discontent still held in Robert's eyes. Would he allow her this victory? The confrontation had shifted, the delicate balance of power had been disturbed. But within her, she felt an awakening, a new chapter unfolding before her, an invitation to reclaim not just her voice but her agency in a world so often marred by domination. Thank you for listening, she concluded, her voice ringing with conviction. I'm excited for what lies ahead, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. As she stepped back, allowing the applause to envelop her, she couldn't shake the tumult of emotions swirling internally. In the crowd, she caught fleeting expressions of admiration but also lingering doubt, particularly in Robert's stare, one that hinted at the defending lion about to retaliate. What would his next move be? Would he attempt to sour her triumph, or had she finally pulled the rug from beneath his feet? Emma knew this was just the beginning of their confrontation, but she felt an intoxicating combination of apprehension and anticipation. She had ignited the spark, now it was time to see how brightly it could blaze as they prepared to face each other again. Emma stepped off the stage, her heart still racing from the adrenaline that coursed through her veins. The applause had momentarily soothed the turmoil inside, but reality soon set in. She spotted Robert lingering at the back of the room, arms crossed, an inscrutable expression etched on his face that teetered between begrudging respect and simmering resentment. The energy shifted, colleagues whispered excitedly, the air crackling with a mixture of surprise and admiration for her boldness. Yet, the shadow of Robert loomed larger in her thoughts. What would happen when the accolades faded? Had she truly earned her place in this world, or was it fleeting, a mere blip under his watchful eye? As she merged into the throng of her colleagues, their congratulations felt warm but distant. Each smile was overshadowed by memories of the critical eyes that had once belittled her work. The taste of victory was bittersweet, and beneath her composed exterior, doubts began to flicker like a faulty light bulb. Had her resolve been enough to conquer the man who had shaped her doubts for so long? Not wanting to dwell, she stepped outside for some air. The cool breeze brushed against her flushed cheeks, a welcome reprieve. She closed her eyes, allowing the world to blur around her as she focused on her breath. With each inhale, she tried to siphon away the remnants of Robert's oppressive influence, replacing it with certainty defiance. She reminded herself that she had not only created a presentation but had also tenderly reclaimed a part of herself. But there was another layer to confront. It wasn't just Robert's looming presence, it was her own expectations. Could she sustain this newfound confidence? Emma had spent years in doubt, and while she danced through fear on that stage, the unknown ahead felt daunting. Was she ready to navigate the complexities of an industry that had often dismissed her? Empowered by her recent performance, she felt a spark of determination igniting yet again. It was more than just standing up for herself, it was about managing a career that mirrored her newfound identity. Living authentically in an industry riddled with scrutiny required constant vigilance, a delicate balancing act of confidence and humility. Emma's thoughts turned to her workshop, the sanctuary where she brought old watches back to life. Each piece was a testament not just to her skill but to the stories they held within. What if she could draw parallels from those delicate gears to her own journey? A watch, after all, required patience, precision, and care. With renewed resolve, Emma decided it was time to expand her focus. She would not only create art but also teach others the principles of resilience embodied in each piece. Perhaps workshops on restoration could allow her to connect with those who felt similarly lost. Strengthening community ties could fortify her own resolve, intertwining her journey with others who sought their own transformations. Pushing the door open to return inside, Emma's mind buzzed with ideas and possibilities. But suddenly, she turned to the right toward the corner where Robert stood, still seething. He had approached a small group, but she could see the intensity of his gaze searching for her, seeking confrontation. The room felt charged again, as if a storm was imminent. The next step wouldn't just be about showcasing her talents, it would require a confrontation that she had long been avoiding. The time had come to face Robert head-on. Determined but anxious, she squared her shoulders and took a step toward him. What would she say? Would she reflect the newfound strength she had begun to cultivate, or would her old fears resurface? The tension in the air thickened, but Emma knew that whatever happened, she was ready to confront the shadows of her past and rewrite her narrative once and for all. This wasn't just about her journey anymore, it was about defining who she could become in the face of adversity. With a deep breath, she took a final step forward, prepared to unearth the truths of their power. Struggle. As Emma approached Robert, the air buzzed with anticipation. The applause from her presentation still echoed in the background, but it was drowned out by the weight of the confrontation looming ahead. She could feel her heart pounding, a primal rhythm syncing with the ticking clocks in her workshop, each second beckoning her to seize the moment. Emma, Robert greeted, voice sharp as glass, a feigned smile resting on his lips. Quite the spectacle, wasn't it? I must admit, I didn't expect you to stand up to me like that. His words sliced through her resolve, but she wouldn't back down. It's not about spectacle, Robert. It's about authenticity. I've learned to value my own voice, something you've tried to silence for too long. For a moment, shock flickered across his face, quickly masking under a composed facade. Ah, I see. You think this is just about you gaining confidence? The industry is unforgiving. A bold statement doesn't guarantee you respect. It takes more than passion to succeed, he retorted, but the tremor beneath his veneer hinted at uncertainty. Emma held her ground, her own voice growing steadier. I understand that, but passion is essential too. It drives the heart of any craft. It's how we navigate challenges and overcome obstacles. Just like I do when I restore watches, not just fixing them, but breathing new life into them. Staring fiercely into Robert's eyes, she saw the weight of his expectations attempting to crush her once more. Yet, in that moment, she felt buoyed by a sudden clarity. She had already transformed darkness into light through her work and her journey. This showdown was her opportunity to prove that she wouldn't let fear dictate her future any longer. Emma, you're still inexperienced, you must grasp the reality of the business world. The corporate sphere isn't a fairy tale, it demands sacrifice, compromises, Robert pressed, adamant, searching for cracks in her newfound armor. That may be true, she countered, her tone unwavering, but what's the point of sacrificing one's values? I won't define my success through fear or intimidation. I've learned that valuing integrity and fostering genuine connections often yields more profound success than mere profit margins. The lines in Robert's face deepened with a mix of irritation and disbelief. Yet, to Emma's astonishment, the fire inside her roared brighter, fueled by her own evolution. That watch I presented? It symbolizes resilience, recovery, and growth. I'll build a legacy that isn't just about numbers and recognition but instead embodies the very essence of life, every struggle, every moment of joy reflected in my craftsmanship. I won't apologize for that. A puzzling emotion flickered in Robert's eyes. Was it respect? Regret? Or perhaps something sweeter, fear of her potential? The air crackled as they stood locked in their dance, the dichotomy of past and present weaving intricately around them. You should know this, Robert, she continued, emboldened. The world is changing, and artisanship is reclaiming its place. I am no longer that uncertain girl waiting for your approval. I've stepped into my identity, and I will forge my own path, no matter how unconventional it may seem. As the silence stretched, the room seemed to ripple around them, the tension electric. Emma understood now that this confrontation was as much for her as it was for Robert. It was integral to her transformation. They were not just confronting one another but proving that change was possible, that fear could be defeated. I don't intend to belittle the corporate world or the value it brings, she insisted, her voice steadying. But neglecting human connection and authenticity for profit alone isn't sustainable. It's obsolete. As the last words left her lips, the crowd that had gathered began to respond. Whispers of appreciation rippled through the witnesses, affirming her stance. She realized she had garnered support, and for the first time, it felt tangible. Robert remained still, the red condescension draining from his features. He was collecting himself, but Emma could see the shift of formidable acknowledgement of her growth cascading through him. Perhaps, he began slowly, his voice divesting itself of some hostility, you have a point, Emma. Maybe there's room for both ambitions, that we can coexist. It seems you're carving a path I never anticipated. In the wake of his half-hearted concession, Emma inhaled deeply, grounding the moment within herself. This was the change she had sought, not only within her personal journey but in redefining relationships that had once constrained her potential. Thank you for acknowledging that, she replied, her voice calm and measured. I genuinely believe that success persists where passion thrives and authenticity reigns. Let's see where that ethos can lead us both. They held each other's gaze, nothing yet fully resolved but an understanding beginning to blossom, a bridge fashioned from uncertainty becoming the foundation for collaboration. Emma stepped back, feeling lighter, although aware that the complexities of their relationship still hung in the air. But she knew now that she possessed the tools to nurture her dreams into thriving realities. The future was still unwritten, but her heart thrummed with newfound confidence, enveloped in the notion that allowing herself to grow and help others could reshape her world. As she walked away, a subtle victory held in each step. The clinking of gears from the watches in her workshop accompanied her resolve. This was her moment, her journey, and she was ready to embrace it all. The next chapter loomed ahead, bright with possibilities yet firmly under her control. Emma understood this was the beginning, the dawn after the storm, as she danced between challenge and triumph, an artist in the world of watchmaking, threading together time with purpose. Now, if you resonated with Emma's challenge and transformation, you need to subscribe now for more impactful emotional stories that can inspire change in your life. This is the moment to show your support for the journey of personal overcoming. Give this video a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts just like yours. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Emma's journey and what you believe lies ahead in her story. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring conclusion. Let's spread the message of passion and authenticity far and wide.